Welcome back, everyone. I'm Laverne McGee, in for the fabulous Aisha Mills. It's been almost 4 years since Marvel's Black Panther hit the big screen and had us all shouting, "Wakanda forever!" For people of color, it was momentous to see the comic's first black superhero brought to life before our very eyes, especially as we continue to navigate a topsy-turvy modern-day civil rights era where the themes of the film felt so familiar and resonate with issues regarding people of color that are front and center today. So I pose this question: what lessons can we learn from the Black Panther, a groundbreaking figure created in the midst of the 1960s civil rights struggle? Well, Jesse Holland is here to help answer that question. He is the author and editor of the Black Panther Tales of Wakanda prose anthology released last year. It was the first prose anthology featuring the first mainstream black superhero. And he's also a historian and professor of journalism at George Washington University. Jesse, welcome to Amplified. So glad to have you here. Wakanda forever to you.
Wakanda forever to you as well, Laverne. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. Okay, so a lot of the work of the late, great Marvel Comics creator Stan Lee was a product of what was going on at that time. So you think about the X-Men and how they were allegorical to the civil rights movement and leaders like Malcolm X. In this case, writer Jack Kirby created Black Panther because he realized there weren't black superheroes around. Even though there wasn't necessarily a political motive to Black Panther, it gives us some context. So how and why did the character become so iconic for civil rights?
Well, first of all, the character that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created was one of the first of its kind. Up until that point, mainstream superheroes were normally blonde or brunette and blue eyed. So it was a major deal when Stan Lee and Jack Kirby took American comic book writers to Africa and gave them something that they didn't expect. He showed them a country that was more sophisticated than the United States. He showed them a country that had greater technology and greater resources. At that point, and frankly, until today, when people think of Africa, they think of a poor continent. They think of people starving. They think of war. But when Jack Kirby and Stan Lee took us to Wakanda that first time, they showed us what Africa could be with Wakanda. And they chose a superhero who didn't need anybody else to get his goals completed. So they showed a independent black nation and a strong black man in an era where those were sadly lacking in the media. So it changed the entire they changed the entire way that we looked at the world. And they started with comics, and it's just gone on from there. From to the movies with Chadwick Boseman to literature with Tales of Wakanda. It shows us that not only can black men and black women be heroes, we can be seen. We can be the ones to lead, not just to follow.
Absolutely. And of course, we have to note that the 2018 Black Panther film had a very in-your-face approach to racial politics and oppression. So tell us about the timing of the film's release and why it was special given the climate then.
Exactly. Well, Black Panther, the movie, came along at a time where the entire country was changing. We had already had Barack Obama's presidency. But when it came to the world of entertainment, it seemed that African American writers, actors, and filmmakers were not getting their fair share. Keep in mind, this came out not too long before Jordan Peele and his movie came out. So, what Black Panther did is showed us that there were no limits to creativity, especially when you can tell a good story. What we saw with Black Panther was that not only will African Americans accept a black man as being the hero, the entire world will. And that was something I don't think Hollywood believed until Black Panther came along. So it not only shattered the glass ceiling, it shattered it and made $1 billion at the same time. And in the end, we know that it's the almighty dollar that rules. So Black Panther proved that not just the United States, but the world will accept and celebrate Black heroes.
Absolutely, it's the almighty dollar. So, what then is the significance of the nation of Wakanda when it comes to modern day civil rights? What does it represent?
When we look at Wakanda, I think what we see is what we as African Americans wish Africa could be. Now, Africa may not be Wakanda, but when we come and we look around at the United States, we see things that we can take from Wakanda and build here at home. Self sustaining communities, communities where African Americans are not just the leaders of African Americans, but they're the leaders of everyone. And we can see with Black Panther, especially, not only the end of racism, but the end of sexism, where we have a country where not only men can lead, but women can lead, especially Black women. That was one of the things that I really enjoyed about the Black Panther movie was it showed that Black women were just as powerful, if not more than Black men. But when Black men and Black women work together, we can do anything. I think that's one of the less talked about themes of the Black Panther movie. And I think that's something we definitely need to take into our new civil rights era. The fact that Black men and Black women both can lead, but if we work together, there's nothing that can't be done.
Yeah, and we should work together. Now, the other interesting twist is that unlike superheroes like Spider-Man, that was the average high school kid from Queens, T'Challa came from a place of royalty. And yet people still find themselves relating to him. So, what is it about his story that resonates so much with the new American majority?
The thing that we love about T'Challa is that T'Challa is not only strong, but he's also smart. T'Challa doesn't have to brag. He doesn't have to boast because he is confident in who he is. A lot of times we see in our heroes a lot of braggadocio, a lot of talk about who we are and what we are. We don't have to talk when we can prove it. That's the thing that we love about T'Challa. He doesn't have to say a word because he knows he can do it. I think that's what we need more from our leaders. Less talk, more action. That's what T'Challa is about. Not about saying what he can do, but doing it and making the world a better place through his actions, not his words.
Yeah, and let's talk about a real life superhero. The man who's played T'Challa, of course, the late actor Chadwick Boseman. We were all devastated about him and his death. Now there's a petition for people who want to see the film, the part recast. And it's gaining more traction, actually. More than 50,000 people have signed the petition, started by a black film critic and comic buff who said that Marvel could stifle the legacy of Black Panther by not recasting. What are your thoughts on that?
I will tell you that my meeting with Chadwick Boseman a few years back was one of the highlights of my life. And I understand how people want to save the role and say, there's no other T'Challa in my life but Chadwick Boseman. But the Black Panther mythology, the Black Panther icon, is one that speaks to so many people. And I would hate for my 13-year-old son to grow up and not have a Black Panther movie to go to when he is 17, 18. So, as much as Chadwick Boseman will always be my Black Panther, I want my children and my grandchildren to have their own Black Panthers, to have their own Black Panther movies that they can go to and they can say, wow, this is one of the things that helped change my life. So I would love to see them recast the role for future Marvel movies, just so boys and girls today will have a hero in the future that they can look up to.
I got to agree with you completely on that, and I think he would have wanted it that way. Jesse, thank you so much for coming on. Wakanda forever to you, Jesse Holland.